Good morning, my dear students. Let's start the class. So, in yesterday's class, I was talking about the characterization techniques for different liquid powders, and also we started with the shaping of powders. So, we discussed different methods how we can shape the powders, so different techniques like extrusion, injection molding methods, different techniques. Okay. So, in today's class, let us continue with the same thing. So there are another two methods out there. We complete that and later on I'm going to take it for the most important concept, what we call it as sintering concept. Okay. So the next two methods are, the first one is we call it as a slip casting. See, basically it is one of the well-known conventional powder metallurgy technique. So where the pressure compacting of metal powders and subsequent sintering of compact. So in the sense, so in this process, the compaction and the sintering will be completed, and it will have certain disadvantages, means such as somewhat restricted to the production of rather small parts due to the capacity limitations of conventional process. It does not permit pressing of certain complicated shapes due to the non-uniform pressure distribution in a mass of metal powders, which is caused by the friction conditions prevailing during the application of pressure. It is economic only if applied to the relatively large scale production on the account of relatively high cost of the hardened steel. So this is uh, this method, the slip cast method, apart from it is having certain advantages, so it will have major severe disadvantages. Okay, so these are all the restrictions what they have made on the what we call it as the slip casting process. And this well-known ceramic process of slip casting can also be applied to a certain metal powders, and parts of large dimensions or complicated shapes can be molded in this way. The process is characterized by the following steps. So what are the steps we will going to follow for this slip casting technique? Let us take one by one. Select the slip mixture. Variables are as follows: powder particle size ranges, type and amount of development, water metal ratio, water to metal ratio, viscosity, and the pH value. So the selection of the mixture, the slip mixture will depend upon the powder particle size, the type and amount of refrigerant and water metal ratios, and the viscosity and the pH value. Weigh the specific amount of powder. If more than one powder fraction is used in a split, weigh the individual fractions and then mix them. Sometimes we need to get a product with a combination of two different metals, so what we call it as an alloy. In such cases, so we need to measure or we need to weigh the fractions of the powders individually, okay? And then we have to get the powders. So you have to weigh them separately and then we have to mix it up. Then add the specific amount of defluent to the dry powder and blend. Slowly add the appropriate amount of water, stirring mechanically while the water is being mixed. Continue mechanical stirring until a smooth slip is observed and determine the pH. This is the steps what we are following for with casting technique. After the pH value of the selected one by adding water, adding either concentrated acid or a hydroxide solution to the slip by constant checking by pH meter. Alter the pH value to the selected one by adding either concentrated acid or hydroxide solution to the slip by constant checking by pH meter. Okay, so in the sense, the pH value can be altered to the selected one, what we have selected the powder. So we can alter it by just adding the concentrated acid or a solution, hydroxide solution to the slip. And we have to check the pH meter so that it will retain the constant value by using a pH meter. Next comes allow the slip to set for a few hours to assure the removal of any air bubbles which may have been formed during stirring or degassing vacuum. In the sense, so slip has to set for a few hours. It has to set it, and we have to ensure that there will be no air bubbles formed during the stirring. Okay. Apply a protective coating to the plaster of Paris mold. Pour the slip slowly into the plaster of Paris mold of the desired shape and size. Here the mold is made out of a plaster of Paris. Okay. So before you just pour the slip into the POP mold, so you have to coat the POP mold with for protection from so many issues. So then after coating, protective coating, then you have to pour the slip slowly. Okay, and the POP mold will have a desired shape and size of the final form. Allow the slip to set for 10 to 20 hours in the mold so that the water can penetrate to the mold. Carefully remove the metal powder with casting from the mold and trim away any excess flash material. So you have to allow the slip to set for at 10 to 20 hours in the mold, and then you have to remove the metal powder casting from the mold and trim away any excess flash material. If any other unwanted material or extra material is there on the mold, you can trim it off. Dry the metal powder slip casting in an oven. So you have to dry it in an oven. Sinter at the desired temperature and time in order to obtain desired properties of the sinter. So you have to sinter it at a different temperature or desired temperature. So this is the sketch which is showing the slip casting process. In first part A, there is a figure number A. So where it is showing assembled plaster mold, plaster of Paris mold here. This is the one what it is showing here, POP mold. Okay. So this is the mold cavity. So this is the shape and size of the component what we want from the slip casting technique. Okay. Then B, filling the mold by slip. So this is the slip. Okay. So you are going to pour. So after applying a protective coating over the POP mold, so you will going to slowly pour the slip into this POP mold. Okay, means you are going to fill the POP mold completely. Okay, and then we are going to allow this slip to set to 10 to 20 hours in the mold so that the POP will going to absorb the water, absorbing water into the plaster. So if any water molecules or any water content is there, so that will be absorbed by this POP, and hence it is allowed to set it for 10 to 20 hours in the mold itself. Okay. Then finally, so you can see this diagram. So this is the slip cast specimen. So we have the slip cast specimen over here, and then this is how you can produce the slip casting. Automatically you can use the slip casting for producing the different components. Okay. The next process is tape casting. So tape casting is a tape casting technology is commonly used in ceramic industry for the manufacture of a thin planar ceramic products of large area with the uniform surface quality and precise dimension. This type of casting is technology. We can put it as a technology. It is common in ceramic industry, and specifically this type of technique is meant for the manufacture of thin planar ceramic products of large area with the uniform surface quality and precise dimension. The surface quality, and you need to have a very large area with the uniform surface quality. Quality of the surface will be uniform and need to have a precise dimension. So in such case, the tape casting will be used in ceramic industries. So this is the diagram what it is been showing here, the tape casting technique. So let us just look at the different parts what we are having here. So here we have a slip source. Slip source is the topper table they call. This is the reel of a carrier film. Okay, this is the support structure. This is the take-up reel, and this is the warm air source. Okay, so let us discuss the process here. A tape casting is performed utilizing the doctor table method at room temperature. The slurries were transferred into the double chamber casting head equipped with the two blades adjusted to a gap height of 1100 micrometer and 900 micrometer. A silicon coated polyethylene terephthalate PET, what we call it as film, was used for a moving carrier. After drying, green tapes are removed from the carrier film with an average thickness of 350 micrometer. The tapes were cut into a square 20 by 20 by means of a hot knife. Laminates of similar geometry were produced by stacking together two green tapes, followed by the lamination of pressure 10 megapascals for 10 minutes and a temperature of 70 degrees centigrade. So, the average density of the green tapes were determined by measuring the dimensions of 10 pieces and so this is basically a very simple process, which is a very difficult process, lengthy process, and cumbersome process. But still, we have a process that is specified in your syllabus. That's what I'm just discussing here. So basically, in this process, so we will go into perform this tape casting utilizing the doctor table method, and it will be carried out at a room temperature. So here, the slurries were transferred into the double chamber casting head equipped with the two blades adjusted for a gap of 1100 and 900 micrometer. Okay, so moving carrier is here. You can see this is the carrier, moving carrier. Okay, so this is a take-up reel. This is the reel of a carrier film. Okay, so here this is the slip source. Okay, so what we do here is you can see this here. So this will be keep on moving, and this will be the table will go into place the slurries, and then warm air will go into sintering, and it will be placed over here. You can see this take up over here, right? So the silicon coated polyphenol film was used as a moving carrier. After drying, green tapes were removed from the carrier film for thickness, and the tapes were cut into a square of 20 by means of a hot knife. Laminates of similar geometry are produced by stacking together two green. So generally, we follow the 10 megapascal pressure for 10 minutes and temperature 70 degrees centigrade. This temperature is above the glass transition temperature of the white plasticizer system. So the average density of the green tapes was determined by measuring the dimensions of 15 pieces of tape by means of a micrometer and weighing each of the tapes. So the process is a little bit specific for the ceramic materials, but still we can use it for powder metallurgy technique in the similar fashion. But this is quite very rarely used technique for manufacturing or getting the shape for the powder. So what they are doing here is the process is a little bit cumbersome here. The slurries are located in the source, and we have a head form, what you call it as a moving carrier. Okay, so the product, the metal powder, will go into get it in the form of a thin ribbon-like structure. Okay, so this will be taken up by the take-up reel over here, and you can average density of the green tapes is determined by measuring the dimensions of thin paste staples of micrometer and weighing each. So here the powder shaping is getting by means of a tape. Then we can get the you can weigh it and you can get the powder. This is how this tape casting technique will be used for making the shaping the powders. So this is the completion of shaping of powders. Okay. Now I want to move to the next topic, what we call it as sintering. Okay. This sintering is basically one of the most important step in our powder metallurgy technique. So we are going to discuss what is this sintering and what are the different steps involved in the sintering and what are different types of sintering, everything we will go to discuss in details. And also we have to extend it for the testing of the sintering parts, like mechanical, physical properties we need to test it. Like the different things are there, we will go to discuss one by one. So before going to that, let us define what is sintering. Yeah. So once the metal powders are manufactured and it is being blended with the additives and the binders, and then it is being compacted to form green specimen. So specimens which are having a green strength. Then that green specimen needs to be provide a hot strength, the actual strength, what we call it as. So for that, we conduct a process, what we call it as sintering. So let us define what is sintering as. A sintering is defined as the thermal treatment of a powder or a compact at a temperature below the melting point of the main constituent for the purpose of increasing its strength by bonding together of the particles. In the sense, basically, the sintering is a thermal treatment. In the sense, you are heating the powder or a compact. Compact in the sense, the powder which is being pressed or which is being compressed or which is being compacted. And you are giving a treatment at a temperature below the melting point of the main constituent. And the purpose of providing the heat thermal treatment is to increase the strength by bonding together. So after compaction, still the component does not possess a very good strength. So it will be still under extreme strength. And in order to make or in order to provide or in order to increase the strength of that compact or a powder by bonding together of the particles. Particles gets bonded together, and so you are imparting or you are increasing the strength of the compact or a powder. So such type of thermal treatment we call it as sintering. Okay. So we have a little theory of sintering. So I will just quickly I will go. A sintering may be considered the process by which an assembly of particles compacted under a pressure or simply confined in a container chemically bond themselves into a coherent body under the influence of an elevated temperature. So in the sense, here we have a different statement for the definition. It is a process by which assembly of particles. That means particles are assembled, which are compacted under a pressure or simply confined in a container, chemically bond themselves into a coherent body. Coherent body in the sense particles which are having the same characteristics. Coherent body under the influence of elevated temperature. So means you are assembling the particles, you are bonding the particles chemically into a coherent body with an influence, under the influence of an elevated temperature. The temperature is usually below the melting point of the major constituent. Much of the difficulty in defining and analyzing sintering is based on many changes within the material that may take place simultaneously or consecutively. Densification or shrinkage of the sintered part is very often associated with the type of sintering. The main problem what we encounter in the case of a sintering is densification or shrinkage. Okay. However, sintering can take place without any shrinkage, expansion or no net dimension can is also possible. From the tooling point of view, it is preferred to avoid very large amount of dimensional changes. The driving force for solid state sintering is the excess surface energy, surface free energy. Sintering is a complex process, and for any given metal and set of sintering conditions, there are likely to be different stages, driving forces, and material transport mechanisms associated. This is the basic theory of sintering. This sintering may be of two types. One is called solid state sintering, and second one is called a liquid state sintering. Okay, So what is this solid state sintering and what is meant by liquid state sintering? We'll discuss one by one now. So let us start with the first one, a solid state sintering. The fusing together of a small particles by heating a powder sample below its melting point unless yeah, solid state sintering. It is defined as a fusing together a small particles by heating a powder sample below its melting point until its particles adhere to it. Okay. This type of sintering is the simplest case, but the process being fairly complex is that the solid state sintering. In this type of sintering, the powder does not melt. Instead, the joining of particles and reduction in porosity occurs through atomic diffusion in the solid state. This is a very important thing what you're supposed to remember. So here, what's happening? Basically, in a solid state sintering, the particles, the small particles are heated. Small particles of powder sample are heated below its melting point, and then we will go into fuse the particles until the particles adheres to each other. Okay. This type of sintering is the simplest case, but the process being fairly complex is that the solid state sintering, in this state, the powder does not melt. Basically, when the particle has to fuse together or it has to bond together, it needs to melt across its surface. So once it melts, then two particles or two adjacent particles which are under the surface which is melt, they will go into fuse together once it melts. But what happens in the case of a solid state sintering is the powder does not melt. Instead, so how the fusing will go to take place? The joining of particles and the reduction in porosity occurs through atomic diffusion in the solid state. So atomic diffusion will go to take place and through which the joining of the particles and the reduction in porosity will go into be happening. The solid state sintering involves material transport by volume diffusion. Diffusion can consist of a movement of atoms or vacancies along surface or grain boundaries or through the volume of the material. The driving force for solid state sintering is the difference in the free energy or chemical potential between the free surfaces of the particles and the points of contact between the adjacent particles. In the sense, the process in which the particles will fuse and the porosity reduces is by diffusion. The diffusion basically consisting of movement of the atoms or vacancies along the surface or grain boundaries, and driving force during this sintering is a difference in the free energy or chemical potential between the free surfaces of the particles and the points of contact between the adjacent particles. So this is how generally the solid state sintering will go. Solid state sintering will go to be taking place. The most important thing here is the second one, what we call it as liquid phase sintering. The liquid phase sintering or LPS, we call it as, is the process for forming high performance multiple phase components from powders. It involves sintering under conditions where solid grains coexist with wetting liquid. So basically, it is a LPS or a liquid phase sintering process for forming a high performance multiple phase components from powders. Means multiple phase means different phase components from the powders you can form. And this type of sintering involves conditions where solid grains coexist with a wetting liquid which wets, and the solid grains will coexist with these wetting liquids. So that is this kind of sintering will go into take place. Liquid phase sintering method is getting more and more common, in which the presence of liquid phase during all or part of the sintering cycle of material is used for enhanced densification. The most common method use of the sintering is a liquid phase sintering. Okay, and in this liquid phase sintering, the presence of liquid phase during all or part of the sintering cycle of material is used for enhanced densification. So increasing the density. So you are going to use the liquid phase either throughout or per part. There are two variations of the process. A normal liquid phase sintering, for which the formation of the liquid phase is associated with one or more components contained in the original grain compact. The first variation is normal liquid phase sintering, for which the formation of the liquid phase is associated with one or more components contained in the original grain compact. And the second is infiltration of original grain compact with a liquid formed outside the compact during very early period of sintering. Although simultaneous infiltration and the sintering appears to be dominant, the infiltration of previously sintered are also practiced. In a sense, the process can take place in two different ways. One is the normal liquid phase sintering, for which the formation of liquid phase is associated with one or more components contained in the original grain compact. In the sense, so whenever you want to carry out the liquid phase sintering, so you need the wettable liquid. So that's what we were talking in the previous slide. So there is a wetting liquid. So wetting liquid, either you can get it either in the from the liquid phase associated with the components which are already there in the original grain compact. That is the one process. Then the second process is you can have this wetting liquid outside. So what we call it as an infiltration of original grain compact. So you can form the wetting liquid outside the compact, and you can use those things at the early period of the sintering. That is infiltration. Infiltration of the original compact with the liquid formed outside the compact. So you're going to form the wetting liquid outside the grain compact, and you're going to infiltrate, or you're going to make the liquid to enter, or you're going to get absorbed by the grain compact, and this will take place at the very early period of the sintering. Although simultaneous infiltration and sintering appears to be dominant, the infiltration of previously sintered part is also practiced. Infiltration can take place during sintering process also, or before you can sinter, you can infiltrate and you can get it done during the sintering. So there are two different ways you can use this process. So in this case, let us look at the steps what we are having here. During the liquid phase sintering, a liquid phase coexists with a particulate solid at the sintering temperature. The wetting liquid provides a capillary force that pulls the solid particles together and induces particle rearrangement. See, in the liquid phase sintering, both the liquid phase and particulate solid both will be existing at the sintering temperature. So the wetting liquid, watch it either it might be from the original material from the original compact, or it might be infiltrated, whatever it might be. This wetting liquid will provide a capillary force that pulls the solid particles together and induces particle rearrangement. So the wetting liquid which is present in this during the sintering process, it will act as a capillary force. So capillary force, in the sense, it will pulls the solid particles together and it makes the particles to get rearranged. Okay, so the wetting liquid is the most important thing in the case of the liquid phase sintering. The second phase chosen has lower melting temperature than the main constituent. The sintering temperature is set just above the melting temperature temperature of the added phase, so that during sintering it performs a liquid phase that wets the solid form. Little bit above the temperature of melting, we will go into we're going to set the sintering temperature at its phase, so that during the sintering it forms the liquid phase that wets the solid form. The pores in the compact are largely surrounded by the liquid phase, and driving force for sintering is the liquid surface energy. The pores in the compact are largely surrounded by the liquid phase. So if you have any pores, or if you have any dislocations, or if you have any vacancies which has been formed across the compact, so this will be surrounded by the liquid, and the liquid surface energy will going to be the driving force for this sintering. With a high liquid fractions, full density can be achieved almost entirely by the rearrangement. Grain boundary wetting breaks the polycrystalline particle into single crystal particles in the initial stages of the liquid phase sintering. These single crystal particles then periodize and close. So this is how things will go and happen. See, look at this here. This is what's happening here. The polycrystalline particle liquid. Okay, wetting is very important phenomena which is happening during LPS. So this is liquid. Okay, so look at this, how the things are changing over here. The polycrystalline particle, the liquid, uses rearrange the solid particles, and then this is what figure represents the surface tensions of multi-phase junction as vector drawn parallel to the respective. How the wetting takes place between the solid particles, which involves the fusion of the particles. So this is what we call it as a liquid phase tension. The surface tensions of the multi-phase junction as a vector. This is the vector, what it is been showing is drawn parallel to the respective surfaces. Just mechanics what they have done here. And the examples, powder metallurgy parts, we can have copper tin alloys, iron copper structural parts, tungsten carbide, cobalts, cemented carbides, ceramics, silicon nitride with a glassy liquid phase, silicon carbide with silicon liquid phase. And moving on to the disadvantages of liquid LPS. Okay, liquid phase sintering. Compact clumping, that is what we call it as shape distortion, which occurs when too much liquid is formed during the sintering. In the sense, the shape distortion, the shape may change, shape may get distorted. So this happens when too much of liquid is formed during the sintering. Okay, that is one of the major disadvantages of liquid phase sintering. The same parameters which control the desired microstructure often control the final properties also. Useful application temperature of the material is sometimes limited by the presence of too much low melting point. Useful application temperature of the material is sometimes limited by the presence of too much low melting point material. If the compact or the material will have a low melting temperature or low melting temperature material, so that presence will go into limit. It limits the useful application temperature of the material. This is one of the major problems with LPS. Okay. So if you have any clarification, students, you can talk to me. Just unmute here. The student is prepared for me. You want to discuss with me anything, any doubts, any clarification? You can have a clarification.
ಎರಡು ಚಟ್ನಿ ತಂದು ಮಾಡೋಣ ಅಲ್ಲ. ಅಜ್ಜಿ ಕೇಳ್ದ ಹೆಂಗ್ ಮಾಡೋದಂತ.
Continue in the next class. Next hour, the modern techniques are there and some physical tests to be conducted. So that I will be discussing the 11:50 class. If you have any clarification, you can have it now. Otherwise, I will just stop now.